on TikTok specifically. And the way they go about it is like they gather pretty much a panel of what they. So this is where it can arguably become subjective. They gather, let's say, a panel of experts in ADHD, and then they just assess the information on like what's being posted on TikTok. And like no surprise, the non-medical professionals tend to profess more misinformation and
people doing
disinformation.
ASMR ice eating aren't giving great information on
exactly.
science,
But if you go on the methodology, and again I'll post in a moment, they say like the information was evaluated by like these 3 or 4 experts, or these people that they study ADHD. You can contest that saying, well, yeah, like these are like, what is an expert? That's a philosophical question. But like yeah, like
See, the
it,
thing
it
is
exists.
that I think the broader point that Admiral Gibbs was trying to make, right, and I think is important. We got lost in the weeds because he said a bunch of things that are like easily debunkable, but it doesn't matter, right? Because the broad point here is that what is and isn't in misinformation is very broadly defined. And when the government gets to determine what is and isn't misinformation and gets to do it secretly, and you don't get to see that process, then I don't know what you're shaking your head. Do you have a retort to that? Because what I
Just
said is factual.
why do we need to see every single process the government does?
Just fuck the government.
I don't
that's
know.
why.
Operation Mockingbird. I don't know, because you shouldn't
MK
trust the
Ultra.
fucking government.
But like I just think you're like fear mongering. Like I think this is really just fear mongering of the government. Like every single second of it is.
Okay, well, do you have an argument, or do you just have like buzzwords?
I'm just saying that. What do you mean? How is fear mongering a buzzword? Like you're telling people to basically be afraid. Yeah, because you're telling people to basically be afraid of the government because they're going to do this, this, and this, and it's like, how does that help?
What is this, and this? Quote me, bitch. Quote me. This, and this. What is it?
There we go.
You said thing Mockingbird, and also don't call me a bitch. Don't do that.
Yeah, I will. I don't.
That's
care.
a little bit too much.
Hey,
what about,
no, hey,
what about like
fine.
Wait, wait, hold on. Sorry. Hey, Scott. No. Thanks.
All right.
What?
So Operation Mockingbird, that's a thing the government already did. This was just one example.
Okay, what year? What is it?
How about MK Ultra? Everybody likes to talk about that one. Like,
Yeah.
Or like CIA.
I think MK Ultra's from like what, the 60s?
Yeah, I mean,
60s, 50s.
Yeah, I mean, or like they're smoggling cocaine in the United States, or finding any of the cocaine, like any of these
They could
things.
never do it again. That was the
And then
60s.
and then there was the thing with the Black Panther Party and the FBI. Yeah, we know these things. They have done horrible things in the past. I'm not denying any of that. But this idea that today we have to be so afraid of the American government is fear mongering.
Hold on, pause. So you admit that they've done a ton of horrible things in the past, in the 60s and 70s, right?
Yes, they have done bad things.
Magical thing. What was the magical thing that changed from the 70s to now?
I think they are a lot more. What's the word?
Guantanamo Bay.
No. I'm trying to think of the word. They're a lot more open,
accountable
in the operations they do. Yeah, accountable, open in the option in the.
Edward Snowden literally proved that to be wrong.
That's not true. Also, when Edward Snowden released those documents, he also released documents about Canada, special programs that we also had, right? That Canada had to deal with after, right?
And Brazil and the UK.
Yeah, so it's because I'm just saying it's a little ridiculous.
Other governments are also bad.
No, that you can't have somebody just releasing security documents, classified documents. You wouldn't want that.
Okay,
why would you want someone
releasing classified documents? You're going to a different argument about like why you don't like him. What I'm saying is that we have an individual that has proven that the government is doing that isn't being held accountable as easily as 10 years ago. And no one went to jail. Jay Clapper lied to Congress, and he works for CNN now.
To you, they're not being held accountable. To you.
Jay Clapper lied to CNN. I'm sorry, lied to Congress. Said unwittingly that we weren't doing any of the things that Edward Snowden proved they were absolutely doing, and now he's a part of the intelligence community and gets paid by CNN. How is that not being held accountable? Like, where's the accountability there? A paycheck
for Edward Snowden?
No, Clapper.
Yeah, for Clapper.
I'm not too familiar with
the chief of the National Security Administration, I believe. I have to verify.
Yeah, I forget
exactly. I'm not familiar with Clapper. Sorry.
I forget exactly.
Well, he lied to the American public, and he was grilled. Sorry, James Clapper. retired Lieutenant
And this
General of the
was
United States Air Force and former Director of National Intelligence. I apologize. I thought he was Deputy Director. The Director of the National Security Administration at the time went to Congress and they said, "Are you?" Because this is a thing that most people don't understand. Because remember how you said most people don't understand how government works. I'll get a little hint of how government works. Is there are people that sit on committees, right? And these people know that they would go. They might face jail time or be or they might be impeached if they leak top secret security information. And so what they'll do is they'll ask people pointed questions over and over and over again, and they're kind of doing like a wink wink nudge nudge to the American public so that that person later can be sued. And so what you see is, you'll see, at least at this example, you saw some conservatives that were saying over and over again, "Are you tracking mass information?" And they said, "Not wittingly. No, not to my knowledge. No, of course not." And then James, right? And then Edward Snowden proved this to be false. And the person never got in trouble, never got investigated, and instead retired with a nice fat check and works for the media and as part of, the intelligence community, the military industrial complex, if you will.
I think no matter what, and you're probably still not going to like my answer.
Mhm.
I think that when it comes to cybersecurity, things like that, especially through the government, it's a lot more complicated. We like to make it. I understand that it's what they did technically is illegal, because I think in 2020 it came down that they said what they did was illegal, right? I just see it as more of a what's the word? Like a foreign issue, right? I don't think the NSA, and that's why I said intention, right? I don't think the NSA's intention was to just like get the American people. I think they were genuinely doing it to look for people like terrorists, whoever else, just like bad people in general. I don't think it was meant to harm the country. And you can take that as you will, because I do, once again, understand it's technically illegal. However, I just don't like the idea of people releasing classified documents. I don't think it's a good idea. I just think it can get in the wrong hands.
So
that's where I just
I
stand
don't
on this.
disagree with anything you said. It's just, you said there's nuance. Did you add that nuance, or are you just saying thin blue line?
We do have to move on.
I think the nuance is the intention.
We'll get back to this. Other people wait. Speaking of one of those bad people, we have Lactoid. So Lactoid, I think Corey.
I want to quickly,
and Doobie, because I want him to answer. Oh, and one more thing, guys. I haven't had trouble with my stream like connecting for months. Right? All of a sudden, we got a stream interruption. All of a sudden, the connection goes down. It's never happened for like all year. But I'm just saying. All right, go ahead, Lactoid.
It's Beetlejuice of crashing streams, as you say Operation Mockingbird 3 times.
It's a hell of a coincidence, yeah.
I've experienced one crash to connecting to Restream, just in the stream, and that never happens.
Oh boy! All right. Well,
government, bro. Alex Jones.
It's gonna keep happening. I wanted to echo something Gibb said and agree with him. Who is defining the misinformation? I'm going to be edgy and just assert the First Amendment explicitly protects American citizens' right to spread misinformation because it prohibits the government from interfering with the exercise of religion. Now, if you are an edgy atheist, all religion is misinformation, and it is explicitly protected that you are allowed to spread misinformation. And if you are religious, you would have to agree that all other religions are misinformation. And so you are also in favor of the government allowing the explicit spread of misinformation by Americans. The spread of misinformation is literally the First Amendment by any kind of logical deduction. It just is. So this term misinformation, then, now that we've established we have a right to spread it, this term of misinformation is particularly pernicious because it reminds me a little bit of Ministry of Truth vibes, which is, what is misinformation? Well, it's when the people say something wrong and the government doesn't particularly like you saying this wrong thing. So then they're going to, step in and figure out how to censor you. Now, when they engage in misinformation, I mean, there's a good reason for it, as always, right? Not only do we have, the NSA we're talking about. I'm sorry to kill your algorithm again, Prime, but when it came to the COVID pandemic, there were instances of the government pressuring social media to censor particular viewpoints. And that's, because, hey, it's misinformation. We have to clamp down on this. But there's an allegation against Fauci specifically that he engaged in misinformation about the masks, right? how initially he said that you weren't, you don't wear masks. And then when later questioned on that, he said, well, we were experiencing a shortage of masks, right? That was one of the reasons why he said that. Well, that's kind of concerning, right? Now we have elected officials, we have the government engaging in this sort of utilitarian analysis where they're lying to the public in order to try to achieve some kind of utilitarian end, such as saving the N95 masks for medical professionals, which even if you think that's a laudable goal, it's still misinformation, right? He's still engaging in misinformation. Why does the government have the right to engage in misinformation? But for some reason, the people don't. I think that's a major concern. I think it's part of the problem with having the government taking a side on public discourse in this fashion.
Let's go to our friend Cord.
Yeah, just to briefly respond to Lactoid, or maybe just like, well, even back him up to some extent. Like, yeah, I would not defend. I'm not a defender of noble lies, and I think, yeah, totally, I can't defend what Fauci did when it comes to, yeah, that mask. Like, that's totally messed up, and that totally, just contributed to just more and more mistrust in government institutions. So it's like, yeah, noble lies, bad. But I have a question for Scott, going back to your opening statement, out of curiosity, because you asked, I think the questioner put forth the challenge of like, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, you asked, can someone provide me like a successful example of like when the intervention like worked? Is that what you asked, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, so I mean, I gave the example of CISA and other governmental other government agencies, which is an industry term for the CIA. So you'll see that when you see like other government agencies, it always means the CIA, basically, which is what they're talking about. So when the CIA and CISA, which is under DHS, right, Department of Homeland Security, Donald Trump signed that into law, by the way. Your beloved magatards, like that was Donald Trump that made most of these problems. But regardless, yeah, so I said 2017 to like 2022. We can go up to this year if you want, right? During that period of time where they had this massive power, specifically in the United States, but I mean, if you have examples in Canada, that's fine. I don't care. Where this massive government power to secretly censor information without the American public knowing, where were do you have those success stories?
Yeah. Like, so I'm not going to say how I'm just more inquiring of like, basically the question that comes to mind. I don't know if it's answered.
I know
like,
it's kind of like a limited time frame, which
like,
is a bit of a trap. I get it, but like,
no,
engage with it.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, the question comes to mind is like, what does success look like of like exercising that power? Because at least for me, I could be totally wrong. Like they're trying to prevent something, and so like, what metric to use to like determine success in that scenario? That seems like difficult to me.
Yeah, no, like I'm willing to engage with anyone that has an example in a utilitarian or consequentialist framework into that thing. What I would say is that no matter what your framework is, I don't think anybody has one that they feel confident that they can back up because they know that they weren't doing anything successful in those 5 years. That the only thing they were doing was getting permission to spread propaganda in the Middle East to cause instability in the Middle East to protect the United States petrodollar, and that they were silencing narratives that were against the state's interest on social media here in America, and that they were pushing Russia, trying to find ways to stop like the MAGA populist conservative movement. And over and over and over again, Twitter, along with other people, were like, "Hey, dude, there's nothing here." And then you have, Senator Mark Warner, as the head of the committee that it investigates cybersecurity, telling them, you have to find something. You better find something, right? And giving them kind of like half threats to try and find something on Russia, So yeah. I mean, I guess if success is the Aspen Institute, where everyone at Twitter, along with Facebook and Google and a bunch of other places, were trained months before the Hunter Biden laptop was released on how to effectively stop Russian misinformation and silence a possible Hunter Biden